I'm still figuring it out, guys. Bear with me. All right.
Hey, babe.
So I'm super excited for this call tonight
Don't
because
forget to record. You got it?
we're recording. I got it, guys. I figured it out. The button's on the bottom of the screen, and I'm using them. It's good. Anyway, Lauren, I read something really interesting earlier today. It's that 97% of communication is nonverbal. It was done by a scientist recently, and just think about that when you're prospecting. I think that's something we don't really think about that often is kind of how you're presenting yourself non-vocally, right? So if 97% of how you communicate with the person you're connecting with is nonverbal, then that has a really huge impact on how you're going to be presenting yourself. So I'm really excited to introduce one of my favorite people in the universe, Loryn Coakley. You're the best. But something I think you've all kind of seen, if you've ever seen her on a video on a Facebook Live, is kind of her poise and how she carries herself and how natural she seems. And that really contributes a lot to her presentation and how she does and how she's heard by her audience. So the idea of attraction posture, after reading that stat, really struck me as particularly important, and I can't think of a better person to train us on it. Loryn, over to you. What do you got?
Thank you so much, Taylor. This is so fun to do this with you.
I'm very excited as well. I'm
And
going to have to steal this from my
well
parents.
done with that amazing fact, because you know what? I read the exact same thing today. And
We're trending.
yeah, it was like everything is in our body language. And of course, you know, if we're not feeling confident, like it comes across. So, you know, there's a lot of things that I want to talk tonight about, like some guides, but then I'm going to give you some action steps because I want to be of value to everybody that's tuning in and give you some things to be conscious and be aware of so that, you know, you moving forward, you're going to be able to maybe identify when you might not be feeling that confident work, because everything comes from confidence. And I want, and it's also confidence within, but then also the confidence of reaching out. And I think we should, I heard this term today and I was like, oh, we should all be like behavioral investigators. Isn't that cool? So like if I walked into this presentation, right? Like if I walked, let's pretend I'm walking into a room and I like look up and I look down and you're there. I don't engage with you. Like we can all make a conscious effort. Every room that we go into, I don't care whether it's the grocery store, the dentist, every time, if we're not feeling confident, we have, number one, the opportunity to identify it, and then the opportunity to do something about it. So if I walk, in the post office, going through the post office, the thing everybody should do, be conscious of it. Stand as tall as you possibly can in your body. Stand tall, shoulders back, head up.
Especially if you're my mom.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, but those little things, you know, and everywhere we go, you guys, just be present in your mind and like take inventory. I take inventory how I'm standing all the time. And I quite often have to do this. So posture is so, so important. And smiling. And I think a lot of times what a hang up for people is, it goes back to that confidence word. So standing tall is the first assignment I want to give everybody. Stand tall, always be present. Take up space. Don't like be like, oh yeah, hi, it's nice to meet you. And, you know, stand tall, own your space. Okay, that's number one. And keep your chin up always, and making eye contact. We are so easily caught up in our head that like, and when we get caught up in our head and our thoughts are like, oh my gosh, should I be saying this? What did they say? What am I going to say next? And then we totally miss everything that the person's saying. So just be present and just look the person in the eye. Another thing, when you're engaging with somebody, and I'm going to encourage everybody, if you haven't done any sort of like event where you have a booth, go and get yourself in an event. Because number one, you standing there and having people coming up to you and asking you questions is going to force you into them, and you might be uncomfortable, and you could just be like, oh my gosh, this is my first time doing this event. I'm a little nervous. Own it. That's the biggest thing. Own it. And then, but through a couple conversations, you're going to start generating a flow within your mind. Like, okay, I've got this. So oftentimes the second thing is slow down. I'm like excited right now. I'm talking. And I catch myself all the time because when I get excited, I tend to talk fast. So I'm in the practice right now of slowing down. And that is when someone's talking to you, listen, but then slow down and really look at them and breathe, take a breath. You guys, like everybody that's on the call, everybody that's tuning in, I know, we've been privy to so much training. All that training is stored in your brain somewhere. And it's going to, like, the more conversations you have, there's going to be stuff that's going to be coming out of your mouth that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was stored up in there. So smile. So when I walk into a room, I don't care. Like, I want to be the person that makes a difference always. And I don't care if I'm talking about isogenics. I just want to be a positive presence in the world. And that is from every person that I'm passing by, I look at them in the eye, I'm like, hi. And they could have the meanest scowl on their face. And I wake them up. And you guys can wake people up too, just by smiling and saying hello. That getting out of the head is a huge, huge, huge thing, I think, for most people, because we just get caught up. And it's really time, you guys. It's time to stop living in your head. If there's something that makes you uncomfortable, you need to do it. And you need to do the stuff that makes you uncomfortable. And identify when something makes you feel, you got to do it. No excuses. And just an example, I signed up for I was invited to talk at a health fair, and she said, oh, you can have a room and you can present, you'll get a full 45 minutes. I was like, oh, and I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, okay, I'll totally do it. So it pushed, like, that feeling was my driver. And as far as everything starts with a hello. It doesn't need to be complicated. But when you say hello and really look at that person in the eyes. Have like a mini staring contest. Get in the practice of looking people in the eyes. And even if there's a lot of stuff going on around you, maintain that eye contact. Because, and when you start a conversation, step in, lean in. When you're listening to someone, like, look them in the eyes, tilt your head, because that is a psychological sign also. When you tilt your head, that gives someone a subliminal indicator that, this person's really listening to me, because you are. This is, it's something, just be really aware. Walk into a room, stand tall, walk up to someone, be like, hi. And even be aware of all the people that are in that room. Be aware of the people, number one, who are reciprocating your smile, and see the people who are maybe giving you a compliment, going out of their way to start a conversation with you. Be reciprocating of that. And for me, I'll just be honest, I always want to make a difference. A lot of times I will be in a room, and it's been in networking groups, and I've gone up to the person who was often shy, just because I wanted to, and not that I spent a lot of conversation, but I just wanted to let that person know that I hey, how are you? Are you enjoying the event? Because number one, it makes me feel good that I'm maybe helping someone else be less uncomfortable. And also just, I'm setting an example, and I'm being who I want to attract. I don't want somebody that's you know, I just, that's the big thing is, you know, every day I write my gratitudes, and I'm going to be doing the gratitude series again. Wake up, write the things that I'm grateful for. Okay. Because, and then also write the things of the maybe if you can't think of 10, if you just 5 solid things of the people you want to attract, and then practice being that person. Okay. So that the gratitudes are really important, and to have an attractive posture. Like, everybody has stuff going on. I have stuff going on in my head. I have negative thoughts. I do. When that happens, like, it's important, and it's our responsibility to take control and take ownership of that, identify it. And then also, like, I go right into gratitude. I'm like, oh my gosh, this, because we can't be that person if we've got negative stuff going on. So if you have a negative thought, like, a lot of times we're like, well, that's really interesting that thought came into my head right now. And just by saying that to myself, it takes me to a place of positivity. And I was driving the car. I had another negative thought. I'm like, okay, I need to get gratitude. I'm like, look at this beautiful sky. I'm so blessed that I have the eyes to see this. I'm so blessed that I can see these amazing colors. Oh my gosh, I have the lungs, healthy lungs, that I can breathe the air. And I just start going through things like that. You do that 10 times, going, like, that negative thought is going to be like, okay, diminished. So I'm just going to look at my notes. And have an intention of presence. And that means, like, being present. Master your mind. Every conversation you have, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with that person. So get out of your head. Sorry, just going through, guys. I'm only 15 minutes in, but, like, that was really the big things, Taylor, that I wanted to cover tonight, was really just those, because I think a lot of people, me included, like, I didn't have confidence, so I didn't have good posture. And the only reason that I got good posture was being okay with not being okay, if that makes sense. Like, I was okay with being a mess, and I'm like, okay, well, I see all these leaders, they say you gotta do this. I was okay putting myself into that position because that was the position I was told I needed to be in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes. Thank you so much, Loryn. And I'm wondering, I mean, you've talked about the transition process, right? You've had moments where you haven't felt confident, you've been more negative, and then you've shifted it to a more positive place. Have you seen a difference in an interaction when you make that shift, when you force yourself to stand in a more confident way? How has that changed the way you've interacted with people?
Oh my gosh, 1000%. Because if I've been like, because when I was negative, it was my self-talk. They're not going to listen to you. I have a lot of self-talk going on in my head, you guys. You may not know that, but it's a lot of voices. So, but identifying it was number one, and then growing through it was number two. That's the hugest thing, Taylor, is that I chose to not stay stuck. I chose to grow through it. And the people who I am, like, connecting with and meeting, and the posture that I now have through all the, through that, growing through that negativity, growing through, just growing through the stuff that we have to grow through, because we can't go over it. We can't go under it. We can't go on the side of it. We have to step through it. So it has changed so much for me, Taylor. Like, I'm, like, that event that I just talked about, that, gosh, like, and there was only a couple people in the room, you guys. I had a whole room. There was a couple people in the room. A year ago, I would have been like, oh my God, I would have been in my head. And I was just like, nope, this is awesome. These 5 people, they need to hear what I have to say. And it was great practice for me. It was preparing me for future presentations. I didn't get in my head, and like I just did it. So that was so huge for me to realize. Is like I didn't like, because it was a room and there was a lot of chairs and there were a lot of empty chairs. But I'm like, this is a great like this is my first time in a room. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is who I'm supposed to be presenting to. Nothing else matters. It's great practice.
And you've heard every leader that has ever been successful in Isogenics say their first however many events or speaking whatever, they were speaking to basically an empty room. You know, you got to go through that. You got to go through the driving, like Susan Slett talked about, driving 3 hours, getting there, and there were two people there. You know, that's just another part of the process. And I love when you talked about, like, these are the people I'm supposed to talk to. I don't need more people here. And I think that kind of brings up something bigger. It's just, you know, changing your attitude about the things you don't want to do is so helpful, because in this business, you know, it's not just what we say, it's how the state from which we say it, if that makes sense. You know, we have to have unwavering belief in ourselves and what we're presenting, because people can pick up on that, right? So,
1,000%.
and that comes from a decision.
It comes from a decision. And, you know, but you know, when we first get started, Taylor, like we don't have that because we're still learning and we're unsure and we're hearing ourselves say things that we've never said before. That's why I'm so adamant with every person, you know, who I like that's interested in building this as a business. I'm like, you got to hear yourself talk. You got to walk around the house. You need to be saying the stuff that you need to say, so that when you say it to a person, you've already heard it in your head like 15, 20, 30, 40 times. Curiously, who are two people you know who would want to do this with you for sure? I walk around the house and I still say, it is my responsibility to make sure that you understand what is available to you. Does that sound good? And I've had a conversation tonight, like that is when, if everybody gets that, it is my responsibility to present all the information to you, not to make an assumption what will or will not work. And the script is posted in TMA. Get that script, get it in your mind, read it out loud, get those phrases down. Curiously, who are two people you want to know? Because that's a big question. And it's also an identifier of, you know, where that person is in the process. Okay. Were you going to say something, CJ? I heard you.
So you signed somebody up today because of posture.
Yeah. Oh, and that's another thing, you guys. Like, I signed a girl up today. I talked to her 3.5 years ago, right when I started. So people are watching, but everybody has to practice. You have to hear yourself say this. You have to get your scripts and have a phone call. Like, all of my girls are like, I'm like, are you using the script for the PAC presentations? If you're not, you need to. Because you need to hear yourself say it. Read it out loud. Yeah, Kathleen, the script it's in there. So you kind of got me off there, Taylor. I got excited because it's.
No, that's awesome. That's what we're here for, right?
Like
Attraction,
it
comes from your posture.
If like you could hear me speak all day long and think, oh my gosh, that's really great. But if you're not putting it into action, then the action is not going to happen. Like I made it my job to do stuff that I didn't like to make myself uncomfortable. Like I just made it a conscious decision, and
get out of your comfort zone.
That's how I got. That's the only way that I got to the posture that I have now. Is getting messy, is maybe not saying the right thing, probably blushing because I was embarrassed, and my face gets really red.
Yep. And I think that's also really good. Just the idea that it might not be pretty in the beginning. You know, the idea of posture and the idea of that idea of attraction that you've been talking about, it's a work in progress. You know, you're not going to start out sounding like, I don't know, Tanya Kirkpatrick or Susan Sly. You know, it's a process. And you have to be okay with starting somewhere.
And and honestly, like the little things. I remember when we did our team calls before Zoom, and the first time I think it was my very first call, and I was like, oh hi, this is Loryn. Like, so nervous. Like and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna speak. It made me nervous, but I did it, and I just said hello and introduced myself. That was it. Yeah. So
It's a constantly evolving process, right?
like 1,000%, 1,000%. Like
And
CJ can attest for the mess that I was in the beginning, and with over talking, and and it just like my attraction posture. I lean in, and it doesn't it's not about me anymore. It's about the person that I'm talking to, and walking into a room every single time with an intention of smiling. And I don't care if I'm talking about isogenics. I want to be the person I want to attract. I want to smile, and somebody who has a scowl on their face, I'm going to smile, and I want to wake them up and say, hi, how are you today? That's a key. I could find, and that's, if someone's not comfortable saying hello, everybody needs to really start practicing giving compliments. I can give a compliment to every single person because I'm just aware of like, oh my gosh, you have great eyes. I don't care if it's a guy or a girl. I said, a mailman came into a store that I was in last week. Like, you have beautiful eyes. That man, he's like, oh my gosh, I wish my wife would say that. You just made my day. Like, and then he walked out, and the girl that was standing in the store was just like, you made that man's day. He lit up. I'm like, isn't that beautiful that we have the power to do that to people, for people?
I think in a greater sense, that's what we do. I mean, if you can kind of step back from the idea of like, I want to share this opportunity with you, that's really important. But it's also just, I want to help these people. I want to change lives. We're not doing this for any other reason than that. And I think that's such a key shift. Just to step back, make it about the other person, making it about helping them. And I think that really contributes to how you're presenting yourself.
Yeah, 1,000%. So like, I hope that was helpful. I mean, if anybody has any questions or something, I don't know what to.
Does anyone have a question? You can unmute yourself and ask your questions if anyone has any. Anyone?
If it makes you uncomfortable, you better do it.
All right. I mean, come on. Somebody's got to have a question.
Or even just practice with me for a second. I see Ann and Amy on my screen. I might have to call on Ann and say, Ann, would you practice with me for a second? Oh, I can't. There you go.
I have to get back on. Where'd you go?
I'm here.
I know, but
I hear you.
I'm not here.
So here's what
Loryn, you're the best, and I tell you, that was a great presentation, and you were very animated, and I really appreciated that, because structural language is very, very important. And when we present ourselves, that structural language, as I described it, really does make a difference for people who you're talking to. And looking at people, and I just find I had a wonderful experience in England. I had a man who, I lived there for 4 years. I had a man who came down the road every day, and his head was down, and he always looked so dour and so down, and I thought, oh my God, I have to have some fun with this guy. So I used to practically get down the ground to try to get him to look at me, and I couldn't get him to look at me. It was really fun because, there are people who just really are so afraid of standing up and looking at somebody and complimenting them. And to me, complimenting someone is the first way to really begin connecting with them.
1,000%. 1,000%. So I was going to ask you, so role play with me for a second.
Okay.
Or repeat after me. Curiously, Loryn, who are two people you know?
Seriously, Loryn, who are two people that you know?
Who would want to do this with you for sure?
Who want to do this with you for sure?
Awesome. Like that's awesome. That's what everybody should be walking around their house talking to themselves. And your husband or your spouse should be like, what are you saying? And you say, well, curiously, who are two people you know who would want to do this with you for sure?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we keep practicing that, that's when it comes in. And that, Taylor, and everyone, that made a biggest difference was me like hearing myself have my conversations out loud because I practiced them.
And that verbal, the way you say the script and what we talked about, the way you say it is almost more important than what you're saying. That confidence that you're going to get through practice is what's going to make all the difference.
It's everything.
Thank you so much, Loryn. Does anyone else have any questions, anything you want to know? Because we're getting on to 9 o'clock now. So, well, I love that, Loryn. I loved what you said. I think my favorite part of what you were talking about was the idea of being on the lookout for people who are responding to you. You know,
Yes.
Those are the people you want to connect with. The people who they smile back at you. They respond to your posture. They have energy. They're lively. You know, you be on the lookout for the people who are responding to the energy you're bringing to interaction or just
and the ones who compliment you.
Yeah, totally.
Way to go, Taylor.
Well, thank you. That was a trial by fire. Yeah, I didn't blow anything up. Nothing's recording's safe. So we made it, guys.
Stay well and get your parents well.
I'll do my best. I'm not so sure anymore. It's getting dangerous here.
Thank you.
I saw some questions popping up, Taylor. The scripts are.
Why not? Let's
Well, people are asking for the script, so I guess I'll go in and I'll tag them again so that they get brought up into the feed.
I could put that in the files or in the call file if you want.
Oh, there you go. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, if you send it to me or something, I can just put it in the file.
Okay. Everybody, we'll make sure that you get these scripts. And I would encourage you. And you want to call me and say, Loryn, I want to read my script to you. Do it. Or get somebody anybody. Like, this is a team,
I
guys.
guarantee if you say on TMA, I need help with this, can someone please help role play this call with me? I mean, even if no one else does, I'll help you, for God's sake. Just someone to bounce it off of. You have a team of really, we're all there for you, so just ask.
Yeah, awesome.
Great, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, everyone, have a great night.
Bye.
Make sure I don't screw up this recording.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Taylor.
You were great.
Well done.